pickles and some type of plum preserve. As you can see, my counter is absolutely covered in produce and we need to do something with it. To start, we have all of our mason jars assembled. Today I am using the regular or the narrow mouth mason jars. I'm using these because these were the only jars that I could buy lids for. Due to COVID, everyone has picked up canning and preserving, and we are in a bit of a shortage when it comes to mason jars and lids. So I went to the store and they didn't have any wide mouth lids, they only had regular mouth lids, so that's what I'm using today. And that is totally okay, because when it comes to pickles and preserves, I actually prefer the regular mouth jars, especially the ones that have a little bit of a shoulder on them. Because they have a bit of a shoulder on them, it helps keep the fruit and the pickles below the line of the liquid and submerged and preserved. If they float, it's not a huge deal so long as the jar has been sealed properly, but the presentation wise it looks a lot nicer if we can keep them below the liquid. So anything with a shoulder is great for pickles. Over on the stove we have 3 pots. We have our big pot of boiling water. Initially, we are going to use this to sterilize all of our jars. And then today we are doing the water bath canning method, which means we are submerging the jars in water to help create a seal and preserve them. An alternative method that you can use for canning is pressure cooking, but I don't have a pressure cooker, so we're doing water bath. Keep in mind when canning, water bath is good for pickles and jams. Anything that has a high pH level or a high sugar level, you can use the water bath method. You can't do meats and you can't do vegetables that aren't in a brine. Reason being, all this does is vacuum seal it and keep it tight, and the liquid is what preserves it and makes it shelf stable. If you want to do meat or regular vegetables like beans and potatoes that you can put in a stew or make a salad out of, you need to use a pressure canner. The pressure canner doesn't need any sort of special brine or syrup because it creates a pressure and it forces all of the air out of it at a really high temperature that sterilizes it and seals it. So again, we're doing water bath today, which is for pickles, jams, or preserves. The other 2 pots you see over here, one will have hot water in it. We're going to use that to sterilize the lids and soften the rubber on the lids. And then the other one in the back, we will be making our brine and our syrup in. So the first thing to keep in mind before you start preparing your pickles or preserves is that everything has been cleaned and sanitized. All of your produce has been cleaned and washed. You can rinse it in a produce wash, or you can do 1 part vinegar, 2 parts water. Just make sure there's no creepy crawlies or bacteria on them. You want to make sure that you're not using soap on your jars or your produce because it can affect the end product of your pickles or preserves. Make sure you clean your counter, make sure you have a clean cutting board, clean knife, and it's easiest if you have everything ready to go before you start. Today we are doing dill pickles. We are doing slices for burgers and sandwiches, and we're going to do pickle spears where we cut them into quarters lengthwise. So we're going to cut up all of our pickles today before we start the canning process. The dill is from my garden. It's all the volunteered dill that was growing in my wildflower bed. If you've been following the channel, then you would have seen my garden tours, and I've shown you how crazy the dill went. I think I have more dill than flowers in that bed at the moment. The garlic we're using today is a Russian red garlic and a German white garlic. Again, these were both grown in my garden. And then my pickles, they're pretty slow this year. They aren't as good as they were last year. So these pickles came from Organic Leaf Drop, which is an organic farm in Chilliwack that Callie and her husband run. They're absolutely delightful people. So I'm super happy to support them and buy pickles from them this year. pickles will shrink and lose some of their moisture when we process them. So we want to be doing about a 1/4 inch width. So back over on our stove, we have brought this pot of water to a boil, and we've added our jars. I have 5 jars in there. Then in this little pot, I'm bringing some water to a boil to sterilize our lids. And in the back, we have our pickling solution dissolving. It's 2½ cups of vinegar, 2½ cups of water, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 1/3 cup of pickling salt. It's important to use pickling vinegar and pickling salt in order to have a regulated pH balance. If you can't use regular vinegar or regular salt, it won't turn out the same. When this comes to a simmer, we will take the jars out of the big pot and start assembling our pickles. It's important to remember when pickling, you always put hot product in hot jars. If you put hot product in cold jars, it shocks the glass, and the glass can end up cracking or shattering, and you end up losing all of your beautiful preserves. Okay, so we've got our hot jars, we have our cucumbers sliced, and we have our garlic. So into each one of these jars is going to go 1 clove of garlic and 1 head of dill. When I say 1 head of dill, I mean something this sized, not something this sized. Then you're going to fill them with your sliced cucumbers. This method is called cold packing because we are putting cold, uncooked produce into the jars and then adding hot liquid on top. Versus hot packing, which is when you would cook the pickles in your pickling solution and then add the hot pickles and hot liquid to hot jars. We're going to fill it up, and we're going to leave 1/2 inch of head space, which means from the liquid to the top of the jar, there's 1/2 inch of space. And then you take your lid, you take your ring, and we do fingertip tight, which means you only use the tips of your fingers, and you get it as tight as you can get it with them, not with your whole hand. This is going to allow the air to escape when we're processing it in the water bath. And now we're going to do all okay. While those are processing, I wanted to take a quick minute to remind you, if you like this video, if you find it useful, if you want to see more videos like this, please make sure to like it and comment below and let me know what you liked about it. And if you didn't like it, please comment below and let me know what you didn't like about it, because I would love to know what to improve on and what I'm doing that people don't like. And if you like the content on my channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so you get notified the next time I post a video. So the pickles are done. We gently remove them from the pot. We put them on a towel, or in this case, a pillowcase. Make sure that they're not touching, that there's good airflow, and then we leave them be. And if done properly, what you should be hearing is a pinging noise of the lid sealing, like this one did. And you will notice that it shouldn't, when you touch it, the lid shouldn't flex. Or some of the jars have the little circle on the top, the indent you can see. So this one pinged and it's sealed. And we're going to leave them for 24 hours and let them cool down before storing them. And you can see on the bottom what I meant when I said that they'll float and lose their liquid. So there's like a bottom inch of liquid and no pickles, which is okay. It just means we could have packed it a little bit tighter. So here is the broken jar that we lost. It ended up losing all of its liquid and floating, so I removed it from the jar prematurely, or from the pot prematurely. You can see that the bottom cleanly broke on it. So there was probably a fault or a crack in the rim of the bottom, and then when it hit the bottom of the pot, it broke in a clean circle. Which happens. It's sad, but we're not going to cry any tears over it. And none of this all goes in the garbage. I would be too worried about having broken glass in there, and I wouldn't want to accidentally eat that. So that's all garbage. And we can't recycle broken glass in BC, so yeah. Here's a great tip. If you have a bunch of leftover pickling liquid, but you don't have enough cucumbers to do another jar of pickles, you can put them in a container with the pickling liquid and some extra random vegetables and pop them in your fridge. In about 24 to 48 hours, you'll have quick fridge pickles.